Hello, I am Wallas, the Polish toy guy. Welcome to my new video. Today I want to show you one of the first toys that came out in the Transformers Universe line in 2008, and this is Deluxe Class Autobot SUNSTREAKER. When we first saw SUNSTREAKER in 1984, he transformed into a modified Lamborghini Countach LP500, and 24 years later he transforms into a vehicle that is very similar to a more modern car, Lamborghini Gallardo. But this is not exactly a Gallardo because licensing it would actually produce more costs for Hasbro, so instead this car has many similarities but also some other modifications that do not invoke licensing. And this is an approach that we often see in Transformers. For example, we've seen it in the 2001 Robots in Disguise line with the Car Brothers. Honestly, I don't mind because with license or not, SUNSTREAKER in vehicle mode looks really nice. As you can see, the primary color is this kind of lemon yellow, at least when I see him with my own eyes, and there's not much paint on him. Yes, so we have this part that is completely painted. You see, the windscreens are all black plastic, so this yellow is an add-on, as is this red Autobot logo, which is kind of too dark for my tastes. But we also have painted hubcaps, something you would really rarely see on modern Transformers toys, and we also have painted side lights, clear plastic front lights, and a really gorgeous back with red lights, some gunmetal grey finishes, and a pretty funny license plate saying we are 84, which alludes of course to the release date of the original SUNSTREAKER. We also have really nice molded details like these air intakes, these other air vents on the engine block. We have a nice air intake in here, which is a separate black plastic piece. And what's also nice, we get this kind of elaborate supercharger unit with grey bits for the vents, some silver paint for some air outtakes, I suppose, and also silver paint for this small turbine. This is a small piece, but it really gives a lot to the design. However, if you do not want to use the supercharger, you can simply disconnect it. It plugs off like so, and there you have a kind of slimmer, more realistic car, which also looks really nice. However, aside from the supercharger unit that can detach, this toy does almost nothing in vehicle mode. There's no place to attach any weapons, no hidden gimmicks. The most important gimmick, aside from looking nice, is that it can actually roll around fairly nicely. Like so. Though I admit, from time to time I also like to use the transformation scheme that is used here on the back, where you use ball joints and swivels to widen the back bumper, to spin these parts around like so, so that we have sort of a opening booster effect, which looks like so, and you can also widen it if you want. It's kind of a silly thing, but it grew onto me, so yeah, I'm happy we can do this. And in the back we can also observe a small chunk of grey plastic, the dual exhaust pipe, which also is the back of SUNSTREAKER's gun. And if we look underneath, we can see a really tightly, nicely packed robot. There's really very little unused space, which I do appreciate, and what's better, in the end it produces a very dynamic robot with little to no kibble. It's time to do vehicle mode comparisons, so let's start with other toys that were released in the general line of, as they call it, Chug. So here we have Reveal the Shield Deluxe Special Ops Jazz and Generations Deluxe Blur. Outside of that line, we also have toys like Transformers Prime Robots in Disguise Deluxe or Revealer Class Bumblebee and Robots in Disguise 2001 Deluxe Prowl, another Lamborghini that's not exactly a Lamborghini. I think we did everything we ought to with the vehicle mode, so now let's proceed and transform SUNSTREAKER into his robot mode. And those of you who do not wish to see this process with us, feel free to go to this minute and this second to jump to robot mode immediately. As for us, we shall start by removing SUNSTREAKER's supercharger unit and plugging off his gun from underneath, like so. And now is a bit that it's not necessarily frustrating, it's just not very comfortable. We have to separate the back of the car, the front of the car, the door and the roof. And all of these connection points are done in a way that some of you may think that you have to disconnect all of them at once. I'll try to give some sequence to it, but it's not always working, and sometimes you just have to work on every single of these locks simultaneously. What we'll try to do is to first undo the doors. We pull these panels to the front like so. Yes, we did it. We did it also here, like so. Now we can tackle the locks that connect the windshield to the front of the car. As you can see, we can just now pull it down, and this will allow us to slide this whole section of the car on the rail that's inside. So we pull it. That would also make a nice vehicle mode, really. And now what I like to do is to bend down in these points. This actually makes some space to spin out a bit the legs. And before we spin them out completely, we have to separate the back again, like so. These parts will form the knee guards for SUNSTREAKER. Now we can bend them out completely, like so, but these are not the actual knees, these are here. Now we can take out the feet from the lower legs, so here we have this joint, this lever, and it has a small point for our fingernails, so we push down on this and on this, and this actually makes it easier for us to remove these parts from here and place them where they are supposed to be, like so. And now we can separate the legs, like so, and spin them so they are in the right place. And now we are done with the legs. That's nice. That certainly worked better than when I reviewed this toy last time in my Polish reviews. So now we can take care of the arms. So as you can see, there's a small swivel hinge over here behind the wheel. So we just have to swing down the door a bit to make room for this spin out, like so and like so. And now we can swing out the arms like so. And to help us a bit, we can also bend up the forearms like so. And before we complete this process, you can see there's another small double hinge over here that we actually have to spin inside like so, so that it ends over here. So we do this on the other side, like so. And now we can push down this or up depending on your current orientation, and now we spin the arms like so. And as you can see, what we did actually took these door panels on the right position, so all we have to do right now is to just spin them around 180 degrees like so and push this inside the arm, and even the hands are in the right position right now. So what we do here is, again, we spin this around so that this T-plug for the arm is not visible, like so. We spin around the door part, we push it in, and now we can collapse this bit over this section of the torso. As you can see, we have small teeth that will actually anchor to these holes, and so what we do is we use this double hinge like so. And now we can wiggle it up and down a bit until we find the right connection point. We have to take it up a bit, like so. That should do it. So now we push down, and it locks into place nicely. And we're almost done. Now we have to do a thing that was quite common for the first toys of this line, the dramatic head reveal. So in case of SUNSTREAKER, what we have to do is to spin around the roof section. And when we do so, Rise, SUNSTREAKER! Okay, there's one more thing we have to do to complete the robot mode, and that is to attach this supercharger unit again, this time on SUNSTREAKER's back, and we do it using these two holes that work really nicely with these two teeth at the back of the unit. So we just put one into another, and now we bend slightly the air intakes inwards, and now SUNSTREAKER in robot mode is complete. Hello people who skipped the transformation, how are you doing? The rest of us are doing really well, because through 5.5 minutes of transformation we achieved a really nice looking robot mode that is SUNSTREAKER even at first glance. We still have yellow, we still have grey, now we have a bit more black, and I am fairly impressed with how this robot mode turned out. It's really dynamic, and I love that they actually included the actual roof section of the vehicle mode instead of some flip-out, fold-out panel that's resting underneath the car. This is often a problem for people who try to tackle SUNSTREAKER, because usually this roof is far bigger than the torso of the robot mode allows to look nicely. But here, yes, it is kind of big, but it's also nicely fitting the rest of the toy, maybe except for the color scheme, which as you can see clearly is not the same. But overall, I really like the visual side of this toy, especially the fact that there is literally almost no kibble. The only thing that can be considered kibble is the door panel on each forearm, and aside from that, there is nothing. Everything is so well incorporated into the very basic structure of the robot mode. Even the back panels, which now are fairly nice looking knee guards, it just looks very clean, very nice. And as you can see, the back is made from the front of the car, and if you think this looks a bit like Sideswipe, yes, both of these characters are using this mold for the Universe line. However, there are some small modifications which do make them stand out as separate toys, which is really great. I also really do like the head sculpt. It's 100% SUNSTREAKER, and it's unmistakable for any other character. We have these black ear bits or horns. We also have really well painted silver face with blue eyes that unfortunately are not light piped, but oh well. And we do have some helmet elements, some air vents on the sides of the cheeks. Overall, this is a really good head sculpt that stands out as a separate character that's distinguishable from other Transformers from Generation 1. And one more pleasant surprise was that we have some clear blue plastic in the thighs. It looks really nice, and I think this is sort of a tribute to how the original SUNSTREAKER transformed when his legs were made not from the back of the car but from the front. And this might emulate his headlights. They really didn't have to do it, and I really do appreciate it because this gives a bit more character to this toy. And I don't even mind these gaps in the legs, because as you can see, the majority of this ABIS is actually on the inside of the leg, and at the back we see only a small part of it, and it's also adorned with really nice grey paint that shows some really nice details. So there was a time in the past when I was bothered by how hollow the legs are and how uncovered this hole is, but right now I don't mind as much. What I do mind though is probably my main gripe with this toy. During transformation there should be more locks for parts in robot mode, because right now some elements of SUNSTREAKER run on their own. You could even say they have their own life, and there's just no way of securing them in their robot mode position, especially these door panels, which are extra annoying because over time they get loose, and as you may see when we pose SUNSTREAKER, it's really easy for them to change their position without our will. Also, the knee guards, nothing connecting them over here. There could be a small slot and peg here to just secure them in place. Right now, you just touch them, oh, and they change position, and it's maybe not as annoying as the door panels, but still, I wish they wouldn't look different every time I play with the toy and just do something like this. Very easy to do. And the final place where this happens is this arm hinge, also not locking in any way. So if you use the arms a lot over time, this can get loose fairly quickly. Okay, I nagged a bit, so now it's time to look at another pro of this toy, the Poseability. For the time it came out, I think it's really nice. Starting with the head, which is on a ball joint that allows Sunstreaker to look up, down, tilt his head a bit, and of course spin it around, so if this supercharger was not in the way we could do Sunstreaker exorcist mode. Now we have the arms, which are on ball joints, which allow 360 motion, no problem. When you want to take them out, they go only like so, because as you can see there's not even enough cutout for the ball joints to proceed any further. We have also a swivel above the elbow, and the elbow is actually double hinged, so we can have a really nice bend, and we also have a moving wrist. And we have a moving waist, and actually the roof part moves slightly up and down to make it easier for us to use the waist joint. And then we have the hips, which also don't have a super good split, but it kind of works for most of the poses. And when you want to take them out to the front, they reach out so far because we have the roof, and on the back they reach out this far because of the construction of the butt, as you can see. Now in the thighs we have another swivel, like so, for the transformation, and if you want you can also use this part from the transformation, but if not, you can use the main intended joint of the knee, which bends 90 degrees. And finally we have feet, which are double hinged, a normal swivel here and a ball joint here, so this allows a great range of motion in every direction. So it's not an ultimate Poseability, not the greatest range out there, but for a deluxe class toy I think it's still really good. Now let's weaponize Sunstreaker. His hands have holes of the 5mm diameter, so you can use most of modern age Transformers weapons with this toy. However, it's a bit sad that his own weapon is this small. It wouldn't really bother me as much if it was actually just a bit painted, because as you can see, there's a lot of room for that. There are numerous details on this gun, and even just a bit of paint would make this look much better, even with its small size. Wait, hang on. It happened. You see, the door panel flopped down on its own. Really loose piece. This is definitely the worst part of this toy, especially when I think about toys like Classic's Bumblebee, who had the same transformation for the doors and yet had a small peg and hole at the top of his forearm so that this part actually locked in place and stayed there. Here, not so much. This is really a big annoyance. Anyway, one thing that I wanted to point out that you might have noticed already is that the handle has a bit of a thinner tip, and in theory that is so that these holes on his shoulders can accommodate this as an arm gun. However, for some reason either this hole is too thin or this is too wide, and the weapon just doesn't want to connect to this slot, which is slightly disappointing, but not something that defines the problems of this toy. However, to compensate for this, we can combine the gun with the supercharger unit, which wraps around it to form sort of a super gun. And this is clearly intentional from the start, because if we look underneath the supercharger, its shapes are designed in a way that matches the shapes of the top of the gun. So clearly, this was what the designers wanted us to do. Still, the combination of gun and poseability is good enough for us to put SUNSTREAKER in a kneeling firing position. Or, if you prefer to have a Kung Fu streaker, there's no problem with that as well. And now it's time for comparisons again, starting with other Universe Deluxe toys. Here we have Sideswipe and here we have Prowl. And here we have two more deluxe toys. This is Generations Trail Cutter and this is Reveal the Shield Turbo Tracks. And finally, here we have the common cola can, the marvelous €1 and the magnificent $1. To sum it all up, as a whole Universe SUNSTREAKER is a good toy whose main strengths are excellent visual design of both modes and a quite good range of motion for a deluxe class transformer. If I was given the chance to improve something here, I would definitely add more locking points for the individual parts of the robot mode, so that once they reach this configuration, it's not only clear where they should go, but also they stay in place even when we play with the figure. As a lesser nitpick, I'd also try to redesign the beginning of vehicle to robot transformation so that the parts of the body separate in a more pronounced specific sequence. Right now you have to decide on your own what comes off first, and while not frustrating, it makes the process slightly more tricky and brain involving. But even with that said, I still think fans of robots turning into cars will be satisfied with SUNSTREAKER, and I recommend adding him to your collection when you get the chance. And that's all for this video review. I will be back with the next one soon. And until then, stay well.